call our next witness.
Naomi Mobley, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, we'll probably take a lunch break at the conclusion of this witness. I'll have some updates for you regarding scheduling that we can discuss at that moment as well. You're saying pens by the state of Florida aren't very good? Ma'am, good morning to you. Ma'am, come over here to your right. Please watch your step as you come forward. If you need a glass of water, let us know. Mr. Gray will certainly accommodate that request of yours.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If there's an objection made during the course of your testimony, I just ask that you pause, let me roll in the objection, and we'll go from there, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can manipulate the microphone to help you project your voice. And with that said, state you may inquire. You're ready.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. May it please the court, and good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Will you state your name for our record, please?
My name is Naomi Mobley.
Ma'am, will you spell your first name?
Naomi.
And where do you live, ma'am?
I live in Springfield.
How long have you lived in the Jacksonville, Florida area?
The majority of my life. So it'll be about 43 years on and off.
Now, Ms. Mobley, I want to direct your attention back to the time period of 2017 to 2018. Who did you live with at that time?
I lived with my then husband and our daughter.
All right, and your daughter's initials, please?
NQ.
Now, when you say your then husband, for our record, would you name who that was?
Johnathan Quiles.
And will you spell that middle name?
Jayco.
And do you see Johnathan Quiles in the courtroom right now?
I do.
Will you describe where he's seated and an article of clothing that he's wearing?
He is seated to the right of his defense attorney, or to the left of her. He has his hair in a ponytail, blue shirt, and glasses on his face.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, may the record reflect that you've identified the witness.
So reflected.
Ma'am, how long were you married to the defendant? Approximately.
Prior to his arrest?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to his arrest was 5 years, and after his arrest, it was probably another year or two before the divorce was final.
At one point between 2013 and 2018, did you and the defendant and your family live on East 16th Street?
Yes.
That Duval County.
Yes.
At one point, did you move to another residence at 528 Trout River Road?
Yes.
And when did that move take place?
In April 2018.
Who was living in the household during that early to mid portion of 2018?
Just myself, him, and our daughter.
And how old at that time approximately would your daughter have been?
She was 3 at that time.
Was that 528 Trout River address also in Duval County?
Yes, sir.
And with respect to those were single-family dwellings, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the jury's seen those, and we won't run through any photographs. When you moved in April of 2018, at some point in time, either before or after that, did you become pregnant?
It was after.
All right, and approximately when did you become pregnant?
I was aware that I was pregnant in June 2018.
And throughout that point, from June of 2018, moving forward up until December of 2019, did you have nieces that would come over and assist you and your family?
Yes.
And would you tell us who that they were?
You want their full names?
You can just use initials.
IS and SS.
And what, in general, would be the
They would come and help assist with my daughter while I was at work, or just assist spend time with me.
All right, and because you mentioned your work, will you tell us at that time where you were working?
When we moved to the Trout River world, I started working at my current job where I am now.
Where's that?
At Citrus Transport.
And what do you do there?
I am a driver, recruiter, and coordinator.
And prior to when you took that job in 2018, what were you doing prior to that?
I was driving trucks.
Did that require you, on that first job, prior to becoming pregnant, you to be gone on the road or driving a certain period of time?
Yes, I typically took loads that would have me to start my morning just after 2 a.m.
Long days?
Yes.
And during that time period when you were gone during those days, would you have your nieces come over and help with your daughter?
Yes.
Was there a time period where your then husband broke his leg?
Yes, he broke his femur.
And approximately when was that?
This was around August or September. It was August 2017.
All right. And was he incapacitated for some period from the middle or late 2017 moving forward?
He actually recovered quite quickly. He was down for about 2 months, and then around October 2017, he was cleared to go back to work.
All right. And just to encapsulate that whole period of time from mid-2017 all the way through 2018 in your pregnancy, were your nieces coming over to assist you, your family, your husband, or a combination thereof?
Yes.
When they would come over, would it typically be like weekends or would it be throughout the week? Could you explain like a general time period they would come over?
If it was during the summer, then it could be throughout the week as well as the weekend. And then during the school time, it was just during the weekend.
Now, was there another child that would also sometimes come just briefly with the initials of KM?
Yes.
And just in general, who is that?
That is their younger brother, my nephew.
And approximately how old was he at that time period, 2017, 2018, just in general?
At that time, I believe he was 8 or 9.
So, would the nieces come with him as well at times?
At times, yes.
Would the nieces come just the two of them at times?
Yes.
Would SS ever come there alone?
She has come alone.
And what about IS? Would she come there and stay alone?
IS came alone more often than SS.
Now, just in the first address in general on East 16th Street before you moved, will you give our jury an indication of where you recall SS and IS sleeping when they came over to your home?
They would sleep on the sofas in the living room.
And would they sleep on the couches or the sofas in the living room together?
Well, there were 2 separate full-size couches.
Now, again, during that time period, would you be gone during the evening hours?
There were many times, more so it would be in the early morning, because like I said, I like to start my trip where I would wake around 2, and by 3 in the morning, most of the time I was gone.
Now, fast forwarding to the Trout River, April or so, 2018, move to that address, where, if you would, describe to our jury where they would sleep at that house.
We had an extra bedroom that would have been for my daughter, but since she didn't sleep in there, they would sleep in there.
All right, that was my next question. Where would your daughter sleep?
She would sleep on her mother's chest.
Now, with respect to IS, you mentioned she would come stay there alone, and you said more than SS. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you give our jury an understanding of approximately how often she was coming and staying alone?
It would be at least once a month.
And come over, stay by herself?
Yes, consistently.
You said consistently?
Yes, sir.
Now, Ms. Mobley, would she come as often as needed at your request?
It would be a combination of at my request and also at her asking.
And would the general purpose of her coming to stay in your home be to take care of you and or your daughter and or any other needs around the house?
It would mainly be to look after my daughter and to take that load off while I was at work.
And again, just so we're clear, once you were in the second homeless traveler, you were also pregnant?
Yes, I found out that I was pregnant in June.
And was that an easy pregnancy for you?
No, neither of my pregnancies were easy.
Did you need the help of your niece?
Yes.
Did you continue to work from 2017 through 2018 even after you became pregnant?
Yes, I did until I was put on bed rest.
Looking back, Ms. Mobley, if you could tell us approximately, first with respect to SS, how often over that year, year and a half, do you think she would be alone with the defendant?
I don't know how often she was alone for the time when I was away and she was at the house along with her sister. But anytime she came by herself, I would be gone. And again, I don't know how often my daughter was not in the same room as them. So,
And same question, would your answer be the same with respect to IS?
yes, it will.
Did you ever find out or observe or see or have personal knowledge about how your then husband was communicating with your two nieces?
Yes, I found out that his primary way of communicating with them was via Snapchat.
Right. What do you know about Snapchat if you do?
Well, what was made aware to me was that the messages in Snapchat would disappear on their own without you having to delete them.
All right. And I'm not asking you now looking back, but at that time, did that have caused you any concern or create any concern for you during that time period?
At that time, it did not. I just figured that that was their way of communicating with their uncle. They had my way of communicating with me and them. We were texters.
That was my next question. How specifically would you communicate electronically with SS and IS?
We would text.
How would you communicate with the defendant from 2017 and 2018?
We would text.
That exclusively?
Yes, I didn't I could not get into Snapchat. I tried it out for the little fun face features, but it was just, I didn't see the point.
Now, ma'am, was your then husband's phone number at that time 904-568-1617?
Yes.
Was there a time period where you learned that IS became pregnant?
Yes.
When did you learn of that information?
It was December 3rd, 2018.
Now, we've heard a lot about it, but just to sort of ask you to summarize for us, in early of December 2018, was there some sort of family disagreement about that?
Yes, the family disagreement happened via text message that was sent by my older sister, and we had a group messaging that we would do, and the defendant, my then husband, was included in that texting stream, and my sister had stated that Jose was in fact Johnathan, and that Johnathan was the father of Iyana Sawyer, of IS's baby. And at that time, it was an extreme disagreement. I was highly upset of the accusation, and my words to them were very explicit, and I finished with, You don't have to wait for the baby to be born. You can test him now.
How many total children does the defendant have?
He has 2 with me, 2 that I know of with another young lady, 1 that I know of with one in New York, and a possible.
Is that 5?
5 for sure, and 1 possible.
What would you say you have observed about those 5 that you could tell us?
Well, every single one of his children look like him, and it seems in my looking at them by age that the closer they get to the age of my children that I have with him, the more they look like him.
Was that something that you either expressed or even in a joking manner ever brought up with your ex-husband?
Absolutely, and we both have verbalized that multiple times.
Now, when this family disagreement broke out in text message as a group in early 2018, what, if anything, did you do thereafter with respect to what you told the defendant?
I told him at that time that he needed to stop speaking with my nieces and he needs to give my family space. I said that it looks really bad and he needs to distance himself.
Would you have told him that early December 2018?
It was on the same day that that text happened, which was December 6, 2018.
And would you agree, ma'am, the members of that group text were all of your sisters?
Yes, and also the defendant.
And so we're clear, you're one of 5 sisters.
Yes, I am. I'm the middle.
Were all of them on that text?
Yes.
Did the defendant indicate to you once you told him to no longer see your nieces, did he stop seeing them?
He told me from his mouth that he absolutely would stop talking, speaking, Snapchatting, texting, any form of smoke signaling to my nieces.
Did you learn thereafter whether or not he stopped speaking and or communicating?
I learned after that he did, in fact, continue speaking with them.
Did you learn that through either family functions, talking with your sisters, things of that nature?
Yes, it was in speaking with my sisters.
Did that upset you?
It did.
Now, ma'am, did you have an Amazon account?
Yes.
All right. And who, first of all, let's talk about that. Did you set that Amazon account up yourself?
Yes.
And who was authorized to use that Amazon account?
Myself and the defendant.
Was this Amazon account password protected?
Yes.
Did you ever share that password with anyone to your knowledge at all?
No.
Did you order items off of it?
Yes.
Did you monitor it on a daily and or monthly basis?
No.
Did you monitor it and look at your statement over time as items came in?
No.
Have you had a chance to look back now, as you testify today, at items that were ordered on your Amazon account that showed up on your Wells Fargo bank account?
Yes.
And I want to now approach and show you what's been marked with States Exhibit 58 and 59. Ask you if you recognize these exhibits. We'll start with the Wells Fargo banking statement, which is States 59. Do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
Our joint banking account.
And whose name is on that account?
Mine and also the defendant's.
Is there any other name that would be on that account?
No.
Do items appear on your bank statement that came from your Amazon account?
Yes.
All right. And now directing your attention to, I'll remove all the pages in the exhibit and ask you to look at page 2. And direct your attention specifically, ma'am, to an October 5 purchase. Who was that from?
It was Amazon. It was actually purchased on October 4th, and it processed in my bank account on October 5th.
And what was the amount of that purchase?
$8.52.
Was there a second purchase from Amazon shortly thereafter on October 10th from Amazon at the bottom of that statement?
Yes. Again, the purchase was on 10/07, and it cleared my bank account on 10/10.
And what was that amount?
$11.16.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 58. Do you recognize this, ma'am?
I do.
What do you recognize this to be?
This is a screenshot that I sent to Detective Abbott.
And what do each of these two screenshots on this exhibit represent?
One shows a purchase made on October 7th, and the other shows a purchase made on October 4th.
And what specific account screen or screenshot are we looking at?
This is a screenshot that I sent of Amazon.com of a receipt of a purchase, the purchase final details.
All right. And first, let's talk about the one on the left. What was the purchase for the one on the left?
It is Nature's Way Dong K Root.
And if you can you tell us the amount of that purchase on your Amazon account of the Don Quay?
Don Quay, I'm sorry, $11.16.
Does that match on page 2 the exact amount of the charge to your bank statement, $11.16?
Yes, it does.
Will you look down to the right of the exhibit in front of you and tell us what the Amazon account reflects as a purchase in that account?
Solargy parsley capsules.
And on your Amazon account, what were you charged?
$8.52.
And does that also exactly to the penny reflect what's on your Wells Fargo banking statement?
Yes, it does.
Ma'am, with respect to parsley and respect to Don Quay, have you ever, in the entire time period that your account with Amazon existed, have you ever ordered parsley and or Don Quay on that account?
No.
Is the only other person authorized to use that account your ex-husband?
Yes.
Did you ever find either Don Quay or parsley anywhere in your home at any point in time?
No.
Now, when you made specific purchases on your Amazon account, would you do that on either a laptop or a phone or both?
Both.
Did you ever share your password with anyone?
No.
Did the defendant have access to the Amazon account?
Yes.
You ever caught your nieces or a nephew or anyone in your family ever ordering something that you did not authorize on your Amazon account?
Never have.
Did you ever receive any kind of package at your home that indicated it was some type of supplement like this that you did not order and send it away?
No.
Had you ordered something like this and seen it, would that have surprised you?
Absolutely.
And the jury's heard where it was later found. Did you yourself ever give your nieces either parsley or Don Quay?
No.
Now, ma'am, I want to talk to you a little bit about cars in your family. You give us just a general summary of who drove what at that time period?
Time period in which
December 2018.
I drove, when I was working, because December 18th was when I was put on bed rest, I drove a Buick Lucerne, and he would drive the red minivan, the Chrysler.
When you say he, do you mean the defendant?
The defendant.
When you say red minivan, have you had an opportunity to review surveillance video that from Ace picked apart during the time period of December 19, December 20 of 2018?
Yes, I have.
Have you identified and agreed that the vehicle that we see the defendant driving is the one he drove?
Yes, I did.
Is that the vehicle that he drove on a daily basis?
Yes, it is.
Did you also have other vehicles in your home and or your driveway or your premises?
Yes, we did.
Tell us about those two.
We had a Dodge Durango and also a Dodge Intrepid.
Who drove those?
The Dodge Intrepid was broke down and being brought back to life, and the Dodge Durango he would drive.
Right. Did you make a demand about the number of vehicles that your family was in possession of during that time period?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
I said our house, our yard looked like a parking lot, and I told him to get rid of some of the vehicles.
Do you know the best you can approximately when you told him that?
It would have been late December
Of 2008.
of 2018, I'm sorry.
Did he act on that request?
Yes, he did.
What vehicle did he choose to sell once you made that request?
The Chrysler minivan.
The red one?
Yes.
Was that the vehicle he drove on a daily basis?
Yes, it was.
Did that leave him with the two Dodges left to drive?
Yes, it did. Well, one Dodge because one was broke down.
Right? Did the second Dodge even have enough room for your family when you went places?
If it were just he and myself and our daughter, then we could fit. But otherwise, if we had the nieces and nephews, no, it was only 2 seats in the front and 3 seats in the back.
Were there time periods where you all would go out routinely as a group, including your nieces and nephews?
Yes.
And yet he still chose to sell the red van?
Yes.
How soon did he sell it?
Rather quickly.
Did he sell it in the latter part of the month of December 2018?
Yes.
Shortly after the Christmas holiday?
Yes.
Now, man, I want to briefly ask you about cooking in your home. Will you describe sort of mainly focusing on when the nieces came over, who generally was responsible for that?
Well, he was the cook. 95% of the meals that came through our house were cooked by him. And when my nieces came over, well, in the Trout River house especially, I noticed that he would cook 2 meals.
And did you take note of who he was cooking the second meal for?
He would always ask the kids as a whole what they wanted, and they would always announce what they wanted. But the meals that always won were the meals that IS would say.
Did you ever know your then husband, your ex-husband, to pick up IS and or SS from Terry Parker High School?
Yes. When his son Jaco was attending Terry Parker High School, he would pick the 3 of them up.
And what vehicle would he do that in?
In the van.
The red minivan?
Yes.
Did he ever take him to other places in that red minivan that you're aware of?
Yes, they went places all the time. They would especially go to the beach.
And looking back now, do you have any recollection of whether the defendant had alone time outside the home with IS, and if so, explain?
He had a lot of alone time outside of the house with IS because she was in the process of getting her driver's license, and so he took her to get the mandatory hours. I'm not sure how many hours it was. I believe it's 10 hours or something along those lines that they require you to have in order to go from having a permit to having an actual license, and he was the person who took her in order to get those hours.
When he went with her
Yes, he would.
Did you ever?
No.
Now, for the record, ma'am, is your ex-husband's date of birth April 18, 1985?
Yes.
Now, when the family learned that IS was pregnant, I guess more the earlier part of December 2018, was the defendant upset about that?
Yes, he was.
Explain that.
He was upset because of our reactions to her being pregnant. As I said, he was on the group chat. Initially, he was just in shock with me in my telling him. But initially, we were also in shock, and our messages reflected that. But as the shock settled, we began to celebrate the fact that there would be a baby coming. And so that's when I noticed that he was upset, because his attitude was, her life is ruined. And I knew his stance on abortion because he had mentioned it to me many of times. And I reiterated to him, our family does not have that stance on abortion. It is not the baby's fault. She will be fine, and we are celebrating. He was very much upset at the fact that we were happy that the baby was coming.
And ma'am, when the family made the decision for her to give birth, can you describe what your eyes saw and or your ears heard that made you notice he was upset about IS keeping that baby? Was it words? Was it the way?
It was the words and also the demeanor. This will mess up her life. She has a future. Because we all saw her as the first president. We saw her as a lawyer or judge. We saw many things that she had the potential to be, and we verbalized those things for years. And his idea, his thought was, his words were, this is just going to ruin her future.
Now, I want to ask you now, once she went missing, December 19th of 2018, what, if anything, did you notice was unusual about him, specifically just him, after she went missing?
There was a change in his behavior after she went missing. Prior to that, he was fidgety and nervous and always speaking about the fact that he could not get a hold of his brother. He was restless. After she went missing, then he slept like a baby. And I'm aware of this because I was very pregnant and I was up every hour on the hour to go to the bathroom as he slept like a baby.
Tim, I now want to ask you just a few questions and approach and show you what has been entered into evidence and marked as either states 31 and or 32. First, ma'am, we'll look at states 32. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is the layout of Ace Pick Apart.
All right. And would this be the entrance to Ace Pick Apart up near the top of states 32?
Yes, it is.
All right. Is this area what's been described in this trial sort of the cement, the old cement factory area?
Yes, it is.
All right, ma'am, at the top where I'm holding my finger, where you pull into Ace Pick Apart, do you agree with what I think we've all seen in photographs where my finger is, that when you drive in, most employees turn left to go to the employee parking?
After the railroad tracks, you turn left, yes.
What if you go straight?
Then you would be going back to that cement area.
Right. Were there times, ma'am, and leading up to when she went missing that you would go to Ace Pick Apart yourself for various reasons?
Yes, I would.
And would you go, for example, to see the defendant there for lunch?
Yes, I would bring him lunch occasionally.
Now, when you drive into Ace Pick Apart and drive over the train tracks, did you ever go straight and your eyes see the defendant over here where the cement area is?
Yes, I met him in that area often.
Did you ever notice whether there was a closed gate there?
There was not at the time.
had you been there several times?
Yes.
Have you driven back there yourself to meet your husband?
Yes, I have. I've driven back there and I have parked and I have sat and I have watched him work and waited for him to get off the clock and come to me.
Have you seen him, and I'm circling with my finger this entire cement area, have your eyes seen him work in that area?
Yes, I have.
Where else would you, if you have, would you say that you've seen the defendant work at Ace Pick-a-Park?
Yes, if you come in, go over the railroad tracks, take a left, and come all the way down to where the dead end is, there's actually a gate right there, and I would hand him food through the gate.
Am I pointing at it?
Yes, you are.
So, ma'am, to orient our jury, if you're facing Ace Pick-a-Park, is this the far left of Ace Pick-a-Park?
Yes, it is.
So the two places that you see him working routinely are the far right, where the cement factory is, or the far left. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Ma'am? While I'm up here, ma'am, saving a trip back, do you recall whether your husband would go shoot his firearm at Gun Gallery on Beach Boulevard?
Yes, he would.
Right? Would he do that often?
Yes, oftentimes we went together.
You've been there yourself.
Yes, I have.
And when you go there, do you have to sign in on a sign-in sheet?
Yes, you do.
Would the defendant take his own firearm when he went to shoot his weapon?
Yes, he would.
Was that a handgun?
It was.
Was that the 9mm Ruger?
Yes, it was.
And when you go there with him, would he have to sign in on a sign-in sheet?
Yes.
I'm now showing you what's been marked, the State's Exhibit 39. You recognize that, man?
The sign-in sheet with his printed name and also his signature.
All right. What's the date on the top of that sign-in sheet?
December 20th,
Of what year?
2018.
I want you to look closely on the far right under line 10. First and foremost, do we see his printed name?
Yes, we do.
Do we see his signature next to that?
Yes, we do.
Would you read on line 10 what it says next to line 10?
Johnathan J. Quiles.
And what's the significance? What do you notice about that in particular? Does he normally put his middle initial?
Yes, he normally would put his middle initial whenever he printed out his whole name.
All right, and look closely, if you can, at the signature. I want you to look at this jury and tell them, is that your husband's signature on this form?
Yes, it is.
And just briefly, ma'am, do you have an opportunity prior to trial to look at State's Exhibit 31, which is all the surveillance video that was captured of the defendant on December 19, 2018, December 20, 2018.
Yes, I have.
Each of those clips that you reviewed on that exhibit, your ex-husband.
Yes, it was.
Did your ex-husband, have a gun cleaning kit?
Yes, he did.
Your eyes actually saw that, ma'am?
Yes, I did. And he explained to me why he bought it too.
Is your sister Johnathan Mobley's phone number 904-450-0955?
Yes, I do recall that being her number.
All right. And probably one of the last things, ma'am, I want to ask you is this. Geolocation services that tell couples where each are. Did you and your husband share that particular device on your phones?
Yes, faithfully.
A simple, more easy way to put it. Did y'all share location data?
Yes, we did.
Did he have it on all the time?
Yes, we both did.
Did it remain on at all times?
Yes, it did.
If it ever turned off, would that be unusual?
Yes, it would.
With respect to the defendant?
Yes, it would. The defendant and myself.
Now, ma'am, would there come a time after he was arrested that let me ask you this way. Did you keep talking to your then husband after
Yes, I did.
Was there a time period where you decided to call him and ask him whether this stuff was true?
Well, he called me.
He had you from the jail?
Yes.
Tell us about that conversation.
There was a time period because things were building up so much. And the point came where he fed me an explanation as to our wash machine and his DNA.
Are you talking about the underwear?
Yes. He tried to give me an explanation as to how his DNA could possibly get in my niece's underwear via our wash machine. After he told me that, I then asked him, tell me the truth. What happened? Tell me the truth.
What was his response?
His response to me was, I want to tell you the truth, but the people listening will take it the wrong way.
From that point forward, ma'am, did you begin the process of leaving?
Everything in me at that moment let go. I immediately, after that conversation, went to God regarding my vows, praying that I honored my part in my vows as his wife, because from that moment on, I explained in my prayer that I could not stand by him still and look at myself in the mirror because I no longer believed them.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, one moment. One moment, Your Honor. Couple more minor things, ma'am. Finish up with you. Was there a time period in December where his hair changed, his hairstyle?
Well, he would go from braids to no braids. I know at the beginning of December, I had braided his hair, and towards later in December, I took the braids down. So he would go from having braids to more so wearing his hair in a ponytail like now.
Would that have been December of 2018?
Yes, December 2018.
And then will you, if you can remember, estimate when Jacob moved into your home? When did that happen? The best you can recall.
I believe it was August 2018. It was before the new school year. I believe it was August 2018.
Now, on December 19, 2018, the day IS went missing, you remember anything about that particular day?
Yes, I remember reaching out to the defendant and telling him my niece did not come home from school.
Yes, ma'am.
And
That day, was it your recollection whether he came home at any point in time during that?
no, he did not come home that day. He actually came home later than usual that day as well.
And do you know whether on that particular day, looking back, that his location data had been turned off? The record shows, I'm asking you what you recall about that.
I found out later at a time in 2019 when my sisters all came over to the apartment that I had moved to where we were trying to figure out how IS got from Terry Parker High School, the last lone place that we saw her on the video, to Ace Pick Apart. And so I had no way of knowing, but then I remembered that we have our Google location on. So I said, if anything, let me go and look at the Google location for our accounts. And at that time, I realized that the Google location for my then husband had been erased all the way up until December 20th, 2018, when suddenly it reappeared.
Yes, ma'am. And lastly, did the police later come collect the firearm from your home?
Yes, they did.
Was that kept in a closet?
Yes, it was.
Is that where the defendant kept it?
Yes, it was.
Was it up on the top tier, up on the upper shelf of the closet?
Yes, it was.
Present when they came and retrieved it?
Yes, I was.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Good morning. For one more minute. Oh, this is not working. Is that okay? Can you all hear me okay?
It's okay. They'll get you a new one. Mr. Skinner broke it.
Not the last time, or the first.
All right. If we could start out. Are you going to switch it out? Thank you so much, Jeff. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So if we could start out, could you tell us about the layout of your house that was located on 16th Street?
Yes. If you walk in from the actual front door, you want me to walk through it?
That's fine. Go ahead. Just give me the basic kind of layout of how many rooms it was, and if you want to walk through and tell me, that's fine.
Okay. Well, there was a front porch, there's a living room, there's a dining room that was split between the kitchen and the living room, and there was a hall that gave access to the bathroom. And also, at the time that we were there, it would have been 2 bedrooms, but we converted it to one big master bedroom.
Okay. And so you had that one large room that you, Mr. Quiles, and your daughter were all sleeping in, correct?
That's correct.
And then the only other main room that you all had, besides like the kitchen and things like that, was that living room. Is that correct?
The living room.
And those were in pretty close proximity to each other, correct?
Yes, there was a hall that separated them.
As far as like, hey, I'm sitting in the bedroom, would you be able to hear what's going on outside in that living room area if people are watching TV or something along those lines?
It depends if they're watching TV loudly. We had a lot of get-togethers in that house, and we were able to, in our master bedroom, watch TV on that screen and also have video games going on in the front room, and they wouldn't interrupt each other.
Understood. If you had that door open, would you be able to hear if people were talking and having conversation? Would you be able to at least hear some rumbling of conversation outside of your room?
If I were paying attention, I could.
Right. Thank you. All right. You said that Mr. Quiles had broke his femur. I believe it was, I think you said August or September of 2017, correct?
That is correct.
And you said he was pretty much back up on his feet around October, sometime in October, correct?
It wasn't 2017, it was 2018 that he broke his femur. No, it wasn't. It was 2017. It was 2017. I was pregnant in 2018. So yes, that's correct.
All right. Thank you so much. And I know the dates can get mixed up. So it, in fact, was October of 2017 that you believe he got back up on his feet pretty much sometime in that month.
That was when he was cleared to go back to work.
Okay. During that time period when he was injured, he was pretty much immobile before he got back on his feet, correct?
He had crutches to use, but immobile, he was very resilient, and even the doctor said that his healing was faster than they had ever seen. So I've never actually seen him incapable of moving.
Okay. And maybe immobile is the wrong word, but he was not moving around like he normally would while he had that injury, correct?
He had a limp.
Okay, thank you. During that time period when he broke his femur, there were people coming and taking care of him at the house from time to time, correct?
Correct.
And that was to help him get to get items for him and things like that, because he was having a little bit of difficulty moving around, correct?
It was actually to take the pressure off of him because I was working and our daughter was there. So it was to help take the load off of him of having to run after a toddler.
Okay. During that time period, were your nieces part of that group of people who were helping to take care of your daughter and doing whatever else needed to be done around the house?
My nieces were the primary. They weren't part of it. There was no one else that came over to help him except my nieces.
So that time period that we're talking about, September, October, or I guess August through October, your two nieces that you described, IS and SS, were at your house quite a bit, helping to take care of things around the house.
Yes.
Okay. When he did get back up on his feet, did he go back to work? And specifically, was he working for Sky Towing at that time?
I don't remember which company he was working for. He had several jobs.
In whatever work you can recall him having after that time period, did that require him to work away from the home?
He was never away from the home overnight, but he had to go out just like anyone else at a job, and then he returned.
And would that require him to be gone for most of the day?
When he was at the towing, he was gone during the day, and then when he worked at a contractor, he was gone for most of the day, and there was Ace Physical Part, he was also gone. I mean, like a typical 9 to 5.
Okay. And did he sometime, of course, work later hours?
Late in compared to what, 9 to 5?
Yes, ma'am. And later than the typical 9 to 5. Did he go into work early, like 8? Did he come home 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night from time to time?
It depends on which job you're referring to.
In general. I just mean in general.
While at Ace Pick Apart, they were pretty much set on their time. And then at the contractor place, that boss pretty much cut them around the same time. And with towing, that would be the only one that would have sporadic where he had to be on call, sometimes for runs that might have been an emergency that he had to go out of town and recover a vehicle and bring it back.
Right. I want to talk to you about your Amazon account and then kind of go on to some other things. The Amazon account, we talked about that. Yeah, I heard what you testified to as far as your memory of ever having ordered something. You don't recall ever ordering Don Quay or parsley on your Amazon account.
I never ordered Don Quay or parsley on my Amazon account.
And the dates that you had provided and looked at on your own Amazon account, that was in October of 2017, correct?
That is correct.
And I believe it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like the 4th and the 7th, right, the very beginning of October, correct?
Yes, it was the beginning.
That would have been the same time period that your nieces were at your house quite a bit, correct?
Correct.
And you stated that you personally would purchase items on Amazon on your phone or on your laptop, correct?
That's correct.
And that laptop that you had was in your home, correct?
That is correct.
And that laptop, there were several people who had access to that laptop, correct?
Yes, it was there at the home. So if you want to pick it up, you can pick it up.
And your nieces, in fact, you knew them to use that laptop on a regular basis.
They like to play video games like most teenagers like to play video games.
And as far as them being on there, when you would order on Amazon, would you sign in every time you went to Amazon, or was that something that was just saved on your laptop?
No, you have to sign in.
Okay, and you said you never provided anyone with your password?
No.
Including Mr. Quiles?
Of course, he had the password. He was my husband.
Okay, you don't know if anybody else had access to it or had that password, correct?
Not by my doing.
Okay, so it's possible that someone else would have had that password. You just personally don't recall ever giving it to anybody.
If he gave access, then that's a question for you to ask him.
And the question is simply, you don't recall ever giving it to anyone, but it's possible.
I did state that. I do not recall.
And it's completely normal to do that, but if you could let me finish the question, that way the record's clear. I will try my best not to overtalk you. If we could do the same, that would be appreciated. All right, let me go back. Let me go back to the time period. Were you aware of a time period where IS was sexually assaulted by their neighbor? I think he lived across the street.
Yes.
Okay. And was that person known to you as Kamar Humphrey?
I believe that's his name.
You didn't know him personally or never had met him, correct?
No.
Okay. Only thing you knew was that there was this sexual battery that happened around March of 2018, correct?
Yes.
Okay. During that time period, were allegations raised of there being some sort of sexual relationship between Mr. Quiles and IS?
Following Kamar, yes.
I'm sorry. I was answering your question following Kamar, yes. Your response to that is?
Yes.
Okay. At that time, in March of 2018, when those allegations came out, did those come from your sister Jametta?
I don't know who they originated from. I just know that it came from my family.
Did Jametta express agreement about those accusations?
They never came to me directly.
When you learned of those accusations, did you confront IS or SS or both about any sort of sexual relationship between Mr. Quiles and them?
I asked them at the Trout River location if there had been any type of inappropriate anything. I asked them both together at a time when he was not around because I didn't want any issue to be of feeling discomfort in the event that he was around, and the answer was yes. So I asked them both together.
And there was no sort of admission from either of them at that point, correct?
No, there was not.
In fact, they said vehemently that never happened.
That is correct.
In fact, if there was any inclination whatsoever from them that something had been going on, you would not have stayed with Mr. Quiles, fair?
I would have took myself and my daughter, and I would have left him.
Around that same time period, do you recall there being a falling out between your sister Jametta and Mr. Quiles?
There was a falling out that was happening all the way around with my family around that time period.
Okay. After that accusation came out and you got your assurances from your nieces as to nothing having been going on between them and Mr. Quiles, did IS and SS continue to come to your house?
Yes.
Was that at your request?
No, it was mine. It was if they texted and asked if they could come over, I would tell them to ask their mother, and oftentimes they would text and ask if they could come over.
Okay. And that was going to be my next question. Did they do that with their mother's permission, come over to your house?
I would never get any of my nieces or nephews without their parents' permission.
So is it your assertion right now today that every time that IS and SS would come over to your house, you were aware of it and your sister Kimberly Mobley was also aware of that?
That is if it happened under my say-so. Now, what happened while I was at work, I can't attest to.
Okay. And let me ask you about that time period when you were working. How long were you working where you were away from the home overnight?
That was in the East 16th house in 2017, and I worked that job. I don't remember how long it was. I know it was past the time of him healing, and I moved out of that job because the tractor that we owned broke.
Okay. And during that time period, you said you were taking jobs, you would leave like 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd be gone.
Oh, well, I had another job after our truck broke to where I was driving as a yard jockey for a company, and I started my shift around 2:30 in the afternoon, and I would finish anywhere around 12 midnight and 2 in the morning. And those were periods of times where my nieces, the girls, would come over and they would help out.
Okay.
Would you like the dates for that time period?
Sure. If you know the exact dates and you can recall, that's fine.
That was after Christmas, the beginning of 2018, up until I started my new job in April 2018.
All right. So I want to ask you about, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit to December 6th, and that was the date that you testified on direct about there being an accusation, once you found out that IS was pregnant, that Johnathan Quiles was Jose and the father of IS's baby.
That is correct.
And that was December 6, 2018, correct?
That is correct.
At that date and time, accusations or allegations that Mr. Quiles was Jose was happening right then and there.
Yes, at that time. That is the first time that I saw.
And that was 2 weeks or so before IS went missing.
Yes.
Did you again confront and ask IS and or SS about that specific allegation?
We found out that they were pregnant, that she was pregnant December 3rd, IS and SS, they never stayed at our house again past November 2018. So at that time, there was no need for me to reach out and ask again because they were no longer coming and staying at our house at that time. When I told him to stop communicating, of course, they weren't at our house at that time.
Okay. So you never did ask IS specifically about this allegation?
I asked her if he was being inappropriate when I asked SS the one time, and that was that.
Okay. And so closer into that December time period, you never had any conversations with your nieces, even if it wasn't at your house, at another location, confronting them about this specific allegation?
The last time my nieces stayed at my house was the most strange time they had ever stayed at my house. And in that time, I decided that I was going to go ahead and take them back early. And when I was taking them back, IS sat in the front seat of the car. She turned her back to me. She looked out the window. She gave me no communication whatsoever. As a matter of fact, IS and SS stayed in the bedroom right across the hall from me and texted me if I could order them a pizza, which is what led to me taking them home early. So at that time, I took them home while he was still at work. That was the last time that they were over the house. And at that time, I had no idea that she was currently pregnant.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me talk to you about Snapchat. You stated that you were aware that Mr. Quiles was Snapchatting and talking to your nieces or whoever on Snapchat, correct?
Correct.
In fact, it wasn't any sort of secret or anything like that. If he was Snapchatting your nieces, he would say, I'm Snapchatting the nieces, correct?
No, he would not say, I'm Snapchatting. What, is he going to just announce, hey, I'm Snapchatting my nieces? I never asked who he was texting, who he was snapping, if he was texting, if he was snapping. I did not bother him when he picked up his phone, so there would be no need to announce that he's snapping or texting anyone, including my nieces.
So let me ask it a different way, and it may just be, let me just back up a little bit. If he was on his phone, if you asked him, hey, what are you doing? Would he not tell you, hey, I'm Snapchatting IS, or I'm texting whoever? Would it be something that was a secret, or would he tell you, hey, this is what I'm doing, if you asked him?
If I asked him, he would tell me what he was doing.
So it wasn't any sort of secret that he kept from you about Snapchatting your nieces, correct?
Correct.
And as far as his use of that, was that strange in some way to you, or as you testified on direct, did you just view that as the way he communicated with them?
It was extremely strange because you're Snapchatting. I'm like, I had to go and find out what Snapchat was. He texted me solely, and they text me solely. So they were still hip to texting. However, that was their platform, so I had no reason at that time to question him as to why you're solely using this with them. But was it strange? Yes, but I tried. I just couldn't, no, I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, it's strange for you in the sense of you didn't use it.
I didn't use it, and I didn't understand why it exists anyway.
Understood. Okay. So Snapchat in general, you just didn't get the point of that.
Yeah, it was a cheater's playground, if you ask me.
All right. But that was something that the kids would use, and he would relate to them in that way, correct?
Yes, correct.
Was he that type of uncle to try and relate to the kids in whatever way that he could?
He was, yes, he was.
Did you ever know him to communicate with another niece of yours, ID?
No, I didn't know that they communicated.
Okay. Did you ever at any point in time catch ID and your husband alone together?
To catch would be to be in a matter of being startled. Were there times when they would be in the room or at the house, and there was one time when we had to get together because that's the only time that ID came over to the house is if we had a family get together. I remember one time I came in and they were in the room, but I thought nothing of it at that time.
Okay. And nothing, as far as you know, nothing inappropriate or anything like that happened in that one time you recall them having been alone together?
I have no idea what happened prior to me entering the room.
All right, let me talk to you about his job. You said that you would go to, and I know we still have this up, you would go to Ace Pick Apart to visit him. You said you bring him lunch from time to time or to meet up with him, correct?
It was to bring him lunch.
Okay, that's fine. And I know you testified on direct that, and when I say him, I mean Mr. Quiles. When you would go to Ace Pick Apart, you said that you would actually drive forward, and this picture is up on your screen, so you can refer to it if you need to. But the part that you're talking about that you would drive into would be straight. If you cross those railroad tracks, you would actually go straight into this area that has this opening here in that blue fence. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you would see him working over there.
That is correct.
Did you see him working on tires or with tires?
He was in a bulldozer machine, like a big giant caterpillar type bulldozer machine. He worked in that often.
Okay. Did you also see him repairing or fixing a fence ever over there?
No.
Okay. Do you recall him working with any dirt or filling out roads or ruts in roads?
No.
Okay. Only thing you recall him being in is in the caterpillar at some point when you went over there.
Yes, he moved cars and they put stuff in the bucket of the bulldozer thing, and he would move wheels and stuff.
Okay, so he did work with tires. I did ask you that earlier. I don't know if you answered that specifically. You would see him working with tires or wheels, however you want to describe them.
Well, I know from him explaining to me, and oftentimes he would video chat and FaceTime with me while he was inside the bulldozer.
And so when you would FaceTime, he would describe his work, basically what he was doing.
I could see what he was doing. I could see him, and he's moving around, and oftentimes he's messing with wheels. That's what I know. I didn't ask for specifics of, hey, are you getting tires or getting wheels or pulling them apart? What are you doing? All I know is he's moving wheels and tires.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to ask, are you moving wheels right now? That if you could see it, that makes sense. As far as other times when you would go to the work, his job, you would say that there was another part of the fence area that you would hand over lunch or things like that if you had to.
It was chained, and I would just hand the bag of lunch through the chain.
Okay, through the chain. All right. And that chain link fence was locked, correct? That's not something that you would go physically walk through.
No, it was chained even during lunch hours, so I'm assuming that it stayed chained all the time.
Meaning that's not an entrance that people would use to go in or anything like that?
No.
It's just an opening where you could hand something through, essentially?
That's correct.
Okay. Not something that you yourself could physically get through, though?
Well, I was very pregnant at that time.
Okay, even if you were thin, would you be able to get through that?
Then, yes, I could.
All right. When you actually would see him there, he was working in the main yard area. He would also be working on that outside area that we talked about earlier, correct?
That is correct.
Did you always know him to be a hard worker when he was working at these jobs?
Always.
Let me talk to you about the gun gallery. You testified to some of the gun gallery stuff. You actually were the one who purchased that 9mm gun, isn't that correct?
Purchased it immediately after our daughter came home from the hospital when she was born, yes.
And the gun cleaning kit that you talked about as well, you also purchased that for him.
I did not. He purchased a gun cleaning kit because one time when he went to the gun range by himself, he said that immediately when he fired the gun, it jammed. And the guy who worked in there told him, look, you got to keep these things cleaned regularly. So he came home with a gun cleaning kit and explained to me that that was why he purchased it. Okay.
And that was years prior, correct?
That was in the Trout River house.
And as far as the gun gallery is, would he go there fairly often?
Yes. Most of the time we would go together, but on December 20th, I recommended because he had a short day at work. It was raining half crazy, and he released the workers to leave early on the yard. So I recommended, I'm like, hey, you're stressed, I'm stressed, go to the gun gallery. That's a stress reliever.
And so you were fully aware that he was going there?
Yes.
And from your own statement, you actually suggested that he go there?
Yes.
And that was just a pastime that he liked to do?
Yes.
A way to blow off steam?
Yes, we both liked to. I just was very pregnant, so I couldn't go.
Fair enough. All right, thank you for that. All right, I want to talk to you about the time period, specifically December 19th and the 20th. During those 2 days, specifically, you said that, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you said during your testimony because I might have missed it. During those 2 days, did you observe anything strange from him at that time that you noticed?
His behavior was strange.
As far as looking, is that what you believe looking back, or at that time on the 19th and 20th, did you believe that?
On the 19th and 20th, I believe the period coming up to the 19th, his behavior was strange because he was continuously saying how his brother's not taking his call, his brother's not taking his call. And the significance of that was, for me, your brother doesn't take your call all the time. So what? He's not talking to you right now. What's the big deal? For him, he didn't see it that way.
Okay. And were you aware of any communication between him and his brother?
He made me aware of communication between him and his brother on January 8th, actually, the day that the cops took him away at Ace Pickup Art. He made me aware of communication with his brother. And it's my understanding that that was the first time that his brother actually called him back afterwards.
Okay. And I mean, there's phone records to talk about that, so I'm not going to ask you about that by any means. But were you aware that they were in communication quite a bit all that month in December?
I don't know. I know that he was panicked of his brother not speaking to him. So if they were in communication, I wasn't aware of that part.
And if you heard the figure that they were in contact via text and phone call 228 times in the month of December alone, would that surprise you?
Yes, it does surprise me.
So you were not aware of that, how often they were communicating?
No, I was not.
All right, when IS went missing, do you recall when Mr. Quiles found out and how?
I told him if he found out prior to that, then I didn't know. But from my mouth, he found out the moment that I found out that she did not come home from school.
Okay. And did you all assist? I know we've heard from other family members that people were trying to locate her and do what they could to post flyers and things like that. Did you both assist in that?
I could not assist the family because I was very estranged from the family at that time. But myself, on my own, when he came home from work, myself and our daughter would go and drive around in Arlington because I needed to do something. My niece was missing.
Understood. And I know that you guys said that you were estranged, but were you still in close contact with your sister, Margiela?
Yes.
And and you guys call her Margie, right?
I call her Margiela. They all call her Margie.
Okay. So would Margiela be giving you updates and keep you updated as far as leads and things that were going on?
Yes, she would.
So you were at least in contact with someone from the family and assisting in some way, whatever way you could at that time?
I couldn't assist. All I could do was be on the outside and listen to what they were doing. I could not assist because I was not included. I was estranged, as I said. I was just thankful to be able to at least have updates of the progress.
And during that time period, Mr. Quiles, he came home every night?
Yes.
Okay, he wasn't gone for any long period of time that you didn't know where he was, besides from work, obviously. But he wasn't gone for any long periods of time where you didn't know where he was?
No.
And at that time, you never had any indications during that period of time that he was somehow involved in IS's disappearance?
No, I didn't. And I asked him.
You asked him about whether he had anything to do with IS going missing?
Yes, the day the cops came to our house, and that's on record because the cops came out and it was all on the news. I asked him on that day, at that time, while the cops were at our house, I asked him.
And he denied?
Yes, he did.
During that time period when IS has gone missing, so this is sometime from December 19th up until Mr. Quiles' arrest. Actually, let me back up a little bit. From December 19th up until when police came to your house. And I believe your sister, Kimberly Mobley, came as well at one point when the police came to your house. Do you recall that?
All of my sisters came.
Okay. So from December 19th until, I believe it was December 26th or 27th, shortly after Christmas, did at any point in time anyone talk about Jose being Johnathan Quiles?
At that point, I was no longer on the group text message. After December 6th, after the text message that happened on December 6th, that text line with me connected to it was no longer being utilized. So I don't know what they were talking about.
And prior to police coming to your house around a couple of days after Christmas, had you been questioned in any way about Jose being Johnathan Quiles?
No.
So for that 2 weeks where you're getting updates of what's going on and leads that they're following, Jose and Johnathan Quiles, that's never brought up?
That was December 6th. Again, I'll state, December 6th was the first time that my family said that he was Jose and he was also the father of her baby. Prior to that, they were on a search to find Jose. IS's story kept changing, and then they said he is Jose, and that was the first and only time that they directly came to a line that I was attached to. And it was a heated discussion where I said a lot of vulgar words to them. And I said, at that time, like I stated before with the prosecution, you don't have to wait until the baby is born. You can test him now. Any conversations that happened with my family after that time, I was not privy to.
Understood. And I guess I was asking more so about police communications. There was nothing to the police about Jose being Johnathan Quiles from December 19th all the way up until a few days after Christmas.
The only thing I learned of police communication is what was on the news.
Understood. And when you said that it was December 6th that this first came out, correct?
Yes.
Let me ask you about the sale of that red van that occurred after, I think you said it was after Christmas as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you testified that you asked him to sell a vehicle, correct?
I said vehicles, get rid of some of these cars. We only had 2 that were insurance and being plated. Our yard was looking like a parking lot, and I said get rid of vehicles.
And did you all have a conversation about him selling that red van?
No, he just picked whichever one he was going to get rid of. I didn't care as long as it wasn't mine.
Okay, and didn't he actually speak to you about not selling the Durango?
Well, the Durango was his baby. He completely gutted out the Durango. He built a custom box in the back of the Durango. So at no time did I assume that he would get rid of the Durango. The 2 vehicles that I figured would go would be the broke down Dodge Intrepid and then whichever vehicle other than my Buick Lucerne.
So the only other vehicle that it could be would be the one that was broken down or that red van, correct?
No, it could have been his Dodge Intrepid because, it could have been his Dodge Durango, but that was going to be up to him as to which vehicle he wanted to make his primary because he was the one who was going to choose what vehicles were going to be sold. My only stipulation was do not sell my Buick.
Okay, so there's 4 vehicles.
Yes.
The Buick, the broken down Intrepid, his Durango, and the red van that he was also using during that time period, correct?
That's correct.
I'm just trying to get to the point. The Durango, he actually told you, hey, I put way too much money, I've spent too much time, you described what the work that he did on the Durango, I'm not selling that particular car.
We didn't, I don't recall having a discussion or a debate. There would be no debate. I didn't give him conditions except for do not sell my Buick. So as to that, why would he have to discuss to me why he's not selling the Dodge Durango? My only stipulation was do not sell my Buick Lucerne.
Understood. So the only options he had to sell, he's not going to sell his baby as you described it, would be the red van or a vehicle that was broken down, correct?
He had 3 options of what had to go. He made his choice as to what he wanted to sell.
And it wasn't strange that he sold that red van in any way?
I did not question why he chose the vehicle that he chose.
Let me ask you how John is with people. Is he a really overly affectionate type of person? Would you describe him in that way?
As far as physically or as far as words, as far as what words of terms of endearment or what?
Yes.
Terms of
all of the above.
As far as physically, no, he wasn't the one that was going to be just overly affectionate with everybody. But as far as terms of endearment, yes, he's going to call everybody baby.
Okay, and so like men, women, children, co-workers, friends, family, he would call everybody baby.
If you're in a circle of somebody who he considers to be a friend or a family member, then yes, but he's not just going to walk up to you and say, hey, baby. So,
as far as your nieces, your nephews, he would call them baby as well, correct?
yes,
Okay. And he would hug and love on them as well, correct?
yes,
And he was affectionate with them regularly, all of them.
yes,
And so that wasn't anything strange or abnormal to you.
no,
You yourself never have witnessed anything that could be deemed inappropriate between Johnathan Quiles and your niece IS, correct?
no,
You've never seen anything that could even be considered inappropriate behavior between Mr. Quiles and your other niece SS, correct?
Considering the fact that if something is going on behind the scenes, the one person you don't want to find out is the person who you are doing dirty and cheating on, such as the wife, it's not strange to me that I never saw anything directly. No, I did not see anything.
And you never even suspected that anything was going on, correct?
No, I didn't suspect. I just had the allegations that were coming from my family.
And those allegations were put to bed, according to you, correct?
No, they were. My comfort in the allegations was when I spoke to my nieces. That's when I was comforted by the allegations.
Even as you sit here now, you cannot tell us anything that you ever witnessed or suspected outside of those allegations that you questioned your nieces about that would be considered inappropriate behavior between your nieces, ISS, or IS, and Mr. Quiles, correct?
In hindsight, as opposed to with all the new information, I can sit back and say, okay, well, that was strange to cooking my niece a meal every time, especially knowing that she was also pregnant at the same time that I was pregnant. At that time, no, but afterwards, having over 4.5, almost 5 years to sit back and think in hindsight, yes, I will say that that was extremely strange.
And let me ask you about the cooking thing, because you brought that up. The cooking thing, you testified on direct that he would ask all of the kids, hey, what do you all want to eat? And then he would make food for them, correct?
He would ask all of them. They would either agree and they all wanted the same thing at that particular time, or they would each say what they did want. But when it all boiled down to it, I got my meal, and the second meal that was made was always the one that Iyana said. The one that IS said.
And as far as cooking 2 meals, you're talking about that time period when you were pregnant.
Yes.
Okay. And during that time period, he's making you a specific meal that's just for you, right?
Yes.
And the other meals that he's making, and that's basically because of your request, right? Like, hey, I want X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And he would accommodate that.
Yes, he would.
And he would do that regularly. That's just the kind of guy he was.
He was a cook. He was the cook. Yes.
All right. And as far as any sort of specifics, do you recall telling police, I believe it was August of 2022, and I don't have the exact date, but around that time period, do you remember telling police that you didn't have any sort of specifics that you could provide or any information that you could provide of what you witnessed or saw or anything like that to indicate any sort of inappropriate or suspicious behavior about Mr. Quiles around this time that IS went missing?
It's the same thing that I'm saying now. It's the same thing that I said at that time. I cannot say what I did not see.
One moment.
No redirect, thank you, sir.
Ms. Mobley, good to see you, ma'am. Have a good rest of your day.